Now that the 5-day World Economic Forum has come to a close, let's hear from Niaga AWANI editor Najib Aroff, who is right now in Davos, Switzerland for the final day outlook.
Geopolitical and economic issues took a center stage for the last day of World Economic Forum 2024 right here in Davos, Switzerland. And of course, one of the sessions this morning attended by Jane Harman, the former congresswoman from United States. And of course, the focus would be on how the relationship between China and the US. And she says that both parties, Democratic and also Republican, have some internal issues and also fractions in terms of supporting trade. Some quarters in Republican and also in Democratic parties are pro-trade and some are not. And also, for example, she says that when US pulled out from the TPP, this gives a vacuum for China to play a greater role in that sense. And of course, in the case of Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, IPEF has also facing some hurdles from within the parties itself. And in the context of US and China relations, she says that it's really a multi-dimensional approach and relationship between US and China. And she says that three fronts of the Biden's administration approach in regards to the US and China relationship, which is the first one is confrontation, second one is competition, and the third one is cooperation. And of course, different issues fall in different buckets of these three. And not just that, the European Union and also European as a whole are facing difficulties in the fraction world right now. And Maris Sefcovic, for instance, European Commission Vice President, says that Europe is going through painful acceptance that we are living in a tough geopolitical world where everything can be weaponized, from data to medicine to critical raw materials, and also from others, from free trade as well. So joining me is the editor-in-chief of Astro, Ashwad Ismail, who attended the session this morning. It's very tense discussion.
Indeed, it is very interesting because all these years, I think the global players kind of try to find gearing on how to dissect or how to decouple problems and how to engage with that problems. But this time around, the keyword here, or in the world of social media, is the hashtag is definitely coopetition. So competition and cooperation. So coopetition is the keyword moving forward. But the question here is that I would like to tie back to the theme of Davos 24 this time around is rebuilding trust, in which the question here is whether we want to build trust or we want to manage distrust better. So this is interesting because at the end of the day, the point from this discussion, 45 minutes discussion, indeed concentrated on economic perspective, but bigger picture here, if you tie it back to what people on the ground are feeling at this point in time, is about inflation. So if you tie that back with rebuilding trust, so the question here is, how are we going to build trust while the distrust between the global north and the global south is definitely widening? And question here, when it comes to the economic and inflation, and the biggest threat to the developing nations like Malaysia is definitely the US interest rate.
Let's listen to the Vice President of European Commission.
So therefore now we have very intense dialogue with our American partners. We are looking for the ways how to overcome this, and therefore I'm coming with these proposals. Let's build bridges. Let's look how we can synergize, because if we create the European, American, Japan, South Korean market for the green tech or green tech, clearly it would stand the global standards. It would bring the economy to the scales which would be enormous. It would be fantastic not only for our economies, but we can share it with the developing world. I mean, all of us been in COP, I presume, and you saw what kind of thirst there is in Africa and Latin American countries for photovoltaic panels, for digital substations, for electrifying this industry. They want to leap over our industrial fossil age, but we need to scale up in a way that we can actually share these technologies with these countries as well.
So based on that particular significant point is that we have to find a bridger in geopolitical economy landscape. So that's one, and I think it is important to actually look into deeper into what are the areas that we can actually ride on and find the common ground. For example, sustainability and AI. I think that's the takeaway point from that conversation.
Yeah. And one of the interesting sessions, and then the closing sessions, I would say, is the economic outlook of 2024, which the panelists are Mr. Thurman, from the President of Singapore, and also we have Christine Lagarde from European Central Bank. And this is very interesting because they touch about the green financing and also some of the topics about fiscal policy. And this is very close to our heart, Malaysia, because we are in the midst of restructuring our fiscal policy in terms of our subsidies and all that. So you attended the session, and how do you see the conversation going in terms of the world leaders focusing on this area?
I think before we go deeper into that, I think the voice from Southeast Asia is significantly important in this conversation. If not, it definitely will be focusing pretty much on the global north, in this case European and also the American. And what the President of Singapore pointed out clearly, that we have to look into the most neglected area, which is the fiscal reform. Okay, let's hear from the President of Singapore. This is super important, and it was applauded by the crowd.
Solution, and we can't keep ducking it. Second, there's a huge opportunity of redirecting subsidies. The IMF has estimated that about $1.3 trillion is spent each year in fuel subsidies. That's about 5 times more the amount of subsidies that goes into green technologies and green energy. We've got to redirect it. Redirect those fuel subsidies to helping vulnerable households, to helping firms to adjust, and to spurring renewables and other green technologies. That's a major redirection. It's fair, it's sustainable, and it's realistic. It has to be achieved. The third issue that's maybe the most neglected is preparing for an aging society with confidence. And it means rejigging in significant ways of social security systems and healthcare financing systems.
Of course, there are a lot of sessions in World Economic Forum that we have covered and we haven't covered actually, but we're gonna cover throughout next week. But we're gonna do a special episode of Niaga Awani, Decoding World Economic Forum, where we are gonna see the whole situation, the whole picture, post all the discussions that's happening right here on the green
Definitely,
financing.
we have to break down by the pillars, especially on AI, middle powers, sustainability, and definitely on a geopolitical, what to expect, geopolitical economy, what to expect in 2024.
All right, that's going to be next week. Stay tuned with Astro Awani. That's all the reporting for this week from World Economic Forum 2024. I'm Najib, Aroff, and Ashwad Ismail. Sign out for Astro Awani.